I'm a writer and actor here in Cincinnati, Ohio. I'm also a poet as well. I'm from Halo Arts, which is a performing arts experience that I am a facilitator for and the founder of. I encourage people to use acting and storytelling as a form of self-healing above adversity. So whether you're singing, telling a story, or acting, telling a story, visually telling a story, using that to heal above adversity, that's a total halo, rising above it all attitude that I like to carry around with me. So to open up, I'm going to do a poem that I wrote. It's called A Trip to the Moon. And I wrote it based on, there's a film called A Trip to the Moon that came out, I think like in the early 1900s. And a place called Chase Public selected me to be one of the participants to do a presentation on A Trip to the Moon. So you could either sing about the idea of the moon or have your own interpretation. So I wrote a poem called A Trip to the Moon, and it's what I would like to see. The moon, obviously you see it, but it's so far we just can't quite touch it physically just yet. There's a lot of things in my brain that feel that way. So without further ado, this is called A Trip to the Moon. There are many things that I believe are possible, but I just can't get close enough to grab them. Forgiveness of parental neglect, envy of other siblings, releasing the feeling of not being pretty enough, skinny enough, American enough, black enough, Muslim enough, angry enough, loud enough, enough! And breathe. The gravity beyond the moon shall correct my asthma. My mother will gain the confidence to drive again. Another sister will leave an abusive relationship, and me, the courage to just keep writing. A trip to the moon, we can go to a place that's not like our own, simply appreciate it and not try to make it like our own. Letting shy kids remain shy, they're okay. Understanding those kids who can't quite get enough free hugs, delaying judgment on those who choose to take drugs. It's so close that I can see it. It's really bright and I can see it. It's so close that I can see it, but it's just so far I just can't quite touch it. The fact that there's some men out there who think that I should cover my brain and cover my mouth and not be able to speak up for myself is crazy. They really want me to thrive in their country, really want to keep me alive in their country. But here I am in my country speaking freely, but am I really? It's so close that I can see it. It's really bright and I can see it. It's so close that I can see it, but it's just so far, I just can't quite touch it. Maybe someday I'll show up to an audition, and they'll request I simply do a yoga sun salutation. But instead, they may just look at my skin and request I put my neck into rotation. Or more than that. It's so close and I can see it. It's really bright and I can see it. I can see it. Can you? I can too, but it's just so far, I just can't quite touch it. Maybe it's not my time to go to the moon just yet. Maybe my feet are planted right here on this earth for a reason. It's not my time to go to the moon just yet. It's so close that I can see it. It's really bright and I can see it. It's so close that I can see it. I can see it. It's just so far, I just can't quite touch it. Yet. A trip to the moon. Alright, so that was my poem, A Trip to the Moon. And I also have a one-woman show, in case you guys haven't seen everything around here. It's called Laid Off. And that was my passion project. It still is my passion project. I wrote it when I got laid off from my full-time job. I used to work in corporate radio, and one day I was told that I didn't have a job anymore due to budget cuts. So I took my severance pay and decided to write a play while looking for a job. And that became Laid Off. Within Laid Off, it's several monologues that are based on true stories from my life, from childhood up to adulthood. I touch on many different topics: identity, race, depression, mental health, domestic violence, which is a really big, huge topic also. And it pretty much was everything that I experienced from childhood up to adulthood, and I just did my whole life resume. So tonight, I will share two monologues from Laid Off, a one-woman show. The very first one is science fiction. I wrote this one based on true events from my childhood, growing up in the suburbs of Dayton, Ohio. I was a black girl with an Arabic name, and nobody knew exactly how to say my name or how to really identify me in many cases. But you'll learn more about me through this introductory monologue, and it's called Science Fiction. on celebrating? Easter? Hanukkah? No. Kwanzaa? Okay, we really could, but we don't have any candles in our house. I'm Muslim. No, I didn't just make that up. It's a religion. But trust me, you're going to hear a lot about us in the next few years. Just don't believe all the crazy stuff. Any other questions? Well, I got a story. You guys want to hear it? So here's what happened. I decided I was going to walk down to the bus stop by myself. My mom was sleeping. She had no idea. Well, one minute, my dad and mom are having a good time. And we're sitting at the dinner table talking about cool stuff like Mort and Mindy with Robin Williams. The next minute, my dad's flipping out over something. Well, that same day I was at the dinner table, I said something, and he said, "Layla, stop talking like that. You sound like a white girl. Stop talking like that." Stop talking like what? Well, maybe I shouldn't say anything at all. He gets mad at me because he sends me to school with you and gets mad I call him sounding like you. Well, I'm the only brown kid in the whole school. The one who has to use the brown crayon, like what Miss Kuzak says. But what if I want to be purple or periwinkle? Anyway, I decided I was going to walk down to the bus stop by myself. So I went down to the basement and into the garage. And I pushed the buttons, and the garage door went up, and it growled at me like a monster. And I felt this cool breeze hit my face. It almost knocked me over. Wait a minute. If I go out the garage door, how am I going to shut it if I'm outside? I guess I'll just have to go out the front door. Wait a minute. There is something really exciting about rolling under a garage door when it's about to shut. So I did it. I dropped and I rolled and I rolled and I rolled, and the garage door, man, it slammed down behind me like boom. I looked behind me, I looked in front of me, and there I was. Outside. I was free. I couldn't move. My book bag strap got stuck under the garage door. And I left my lunchbox too. So I had no choice but to pull my book bag from under the garage door and go back to the house and ring the doorbell. My dad answered the door. "Layla, what are you doing outside?" I was looking at the rocks and flowers and things. He didn't believe me. So he put on a dashiki and would walk me down to the bus stop anyway. And that's how I ended up on the bus with you guys. True story. Oh, but wait, there's more. There's some science fiction stuff going on in our house. Well, just yesterday, my mom and dad were arguing. And I guess their phone got mad too. So it flew out of their room, through my door, and landed in my room. Well, I saw it with my own 2 eyes. I didn't know that phones could fly. You don't have phones flying to your house, do you? Well then, I guess it's just my house. It's like science fiction. You see, there's this big hole in the door. It's almost like another galaxy's in there. But my mom covered it up with this Mickey Mouse calendar that I got for my birthday. But the hole is still there. Well, I guess the hole always will be there unless we get another door, when we move. Oh, yeah, I forgot. We're moving again. I don't know, it seems like I just moved back. We're moving to a place called Maryland. My sister said it's Bowie, but it's spelled like Bowie. Like David Bowie, but it's pronounced Bowie. But before I move, I have a confession to make. Remember I told you guys my middle name was Elizabeth? It's not. It's Basima. No, not basement. Basima. I only told you guys my middle name was Elizabeth because I thought you'd make fun of me. My name is not Layla Elizabeth Hameen, it's Layla Basima Hameen. You didn't laugh. Well, that's cool. Since we're on the topic of Arabic, my name's Layla, as you know, and it means of the night. And Basima, it means smile. And Hameen, well, my mom told me that it means friend. So that means all of you are my Hameens, and you make me Basima, even when it's not Layla outside. I just hope you guys remember me. I mean, it's going to be the third school, third grade, third city. Well, if you do miss me, pull out the brown crayon. And if you really want to miss me, pull out the purple one too. I guess I'm both of them. I just can't help but to wonder what the third city's going to be like. Maryland. I guess we'll never know. That concludes science fiction. So that was an original monologue written for a laid-off one-woman show. A little backstory about that is based off my life from childhood, because growing up in Dayton, Ohio, there wasn't a lot of Muslim kids in my elementary school. So I got a lot of questions like, are you allowed to eat chicken? Can you drink milk? You know, can you eat hamburgers because it's ham? Like just random questions that kids don't really understand why they're asking, but they're just curious because you're different. And then just being able to understand that I didn't celebrate Christmas like everybody else, but we got gifts after Christmas because they were on discount. So I actually won this time, guys. But there were instances where my father's anger got really out of hand, and there was phones thrown, and there was a phone thrown through my bedroom door, and it left a really big hole in it. And my mom covered it up with a Mickey Mouse calendar because she just didn't know what else to do at that point. She wasn't ready to leave. You have to be ready to leave, and at that point she just wasn't ready. She wanted to just cover it up with a calendar and be like, okay, we're gonna figure this out. And moving to Maryland was supposed to be the fresh start because we had just moved back from Dayton. We moved from Dayton to Cincinnati, then we moved back from Cincinnati back to Dayton. Parents got back together, then we moved to Maryland within like 3 weeks. So it was like, okay, now we're gonna switch around and be a big happy family in this new city, new house. But we had the same issues, and thank goodness it ended. But that was the early foundation of Layla. I love to tell stories. I was a shy kid, but I always knew how to imitate people since childhood. It was a hobby to challenge myself to imitate my teacher or the person sitting next to me when I got home, but not in public. But my family saw my shows all the time, but in public I didn't talk. So science fiction is a big monologue for me because it took a lot for me to write about it and talk about it. Because my family found out I'm talking about flying phones. They're like, no, you cannot talk about that. This is personal domestic violence stuff. No one needs to hear about this. But they do, because people need to hear about it, and it's important to talk about it, because if you don't talk about it, then you're silenced, and that's not healthy. So, that is science fiction. The next monologue I will share, and that is my last one, it will be parking lots, because that is also a challenging one that I wrote, because I wrote it actually after I lost my job. That was the year that my 03 Honda, I got laid off in 2015, but my 2003 Honda trunk latch broke, and so I had to duct tape it down because it was hydraulics thing all over the city of Cincinnati. Finally, I went to a Honda dealership, and I decided to see how much it would cost to get it fixed. And it took them hours to look at it. I left my journal at home, so I needed to write this idea for laid off because I had all these ideas in my head. So I took all the napkins out of the break room and just started like writing ideas. Like, man, I wish I had that newer car my dad gave me the first time, the one that didn't get totaled, but that gift was actually sorry for not being a good dad to you gift. Like, I just had all these ideas, and I would draw my laid off picture in my head, like how my eyes looked, how I wanted the title to look, and this was months before I even performed it. So parking lots is the next monologue that was pretty much formulated in a Honda dealership break room, thanks to a bunch of napkins. All right. I'm always waiting on something. I'm always waiting. I'm waiting for the next gig. I'm waiting for the perfect role for myself. I'm waiting to just get my tax refund. I'm waiting for my student loans to get lowered. I'm constantly waiting. I've been waiting since I was 7, and I'm tired of it. I'm always waiting. I'm always waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting, but I never make anybody wait on me, ever. It's like I'm walking around a parking lot looking for a car that doesn't even exist, that's not even there. It all starts from my father, I guess. Well, the courage of the things I wish I could tell my father. I wish I had the courage to tell the things to my father because he's still here. I should tell him these things, but if I had the courage to tell him, I would tell him. You know, I feel very powerful knowing that you don't really know a lot about me. Well, you never ask and I never tell you. You remember the last time that we saw each other? I do. You wanted to gather all of your children together for some type of solidarity dinner. But you were so consumed with a random distant cousin who happened to walk into the restaurant, you barely said 3 words to me. I wanted to tell you that I'm about to graduate with a Master of Arts in Communications. I'm directing a documentary and I got a lead part in a Christian independent film called Grandma's Hands, straight to DVD. But you wouldn't have heard me. But thank you very much for the car, Dad. It is beautiful. But honestly, I feel like we burned out a long time ago. You remember that time that me, you, and Mom went to Kings Island when I was about 7? Man, we had so much fun that day. Mom took me to go get on some kiddie ride, and you told us to meet you at a certain location at a certain time when we were done. When we got off the ride, you weren't there. You stood there, and my mom said, "Well, Layla, you know what? Your father is probably in the parking lot. Let's walk." And so we walked, and we walked, and we walked, and we walked, and walked for what felt like hours in that parking lot. Now see, I'm flat-footed. I don't have an arch. So it felt like I was walking on every rock and pebble and stone in that parking lot. Man, Mom, he must have hit that car really good because I don't see it anywhere. Mom! Mom! Finally, she turned and looked at me and she said, "Layla? Okay, the car's not here. Your father left. But don't worry, we're gonna get a ride home back to Dayton. My brother, your Uncle Chip will take us back. We'll get back." And I turned and looked at her and I said, "Mom, he didn't leave. We just have to keep looking. He could be looking for us. We just have to keep looking." My daddy didn't leave us. He didn't leave me. He left. He's gone. We walked back into Kings Island so Mom could use a payphone because it was 1993. We didn't have cell phones. And it started to rain. And I remember walking into the amusement park and sitting on a bench and waiting for her to make that call. And I sat on the bench and I kept seeing all of these Star Trek actors walking around with these wrinkled foreheads. Thinking, man, they are so scary. Why are they here? Why am I still here? Mom, we are stuck in an amusement park and it's not as fun as I hoped it would be. back to Dayton. And I remember I was so mad at you. The first thing that I did was I went in my room and I grabbed a picture of me and you that we took at Kings Island months earlier. And I stood in the doorway of the bathroom where you were shaving. And you turned and looked at me. And I held that picture up in my 7-year-old hands and I ripped it up. And I walked away. See, Daddy, I was so mad. But I had no words. So you can't paint over belt marks that are left in walls. You can cover up holes in doors with calendars. I never got any bruises, but I clearly have to heal from something. Oh, and thank you. Thank you for protecting us against the bad guys, the bullies, the mean teachers, and the potential predators. The only person you did protect us against was you. But I forgive, because Mom forgives. People tell me I look so much like you, and it's supposed to be a compliment. But it's not. If I could put someone else's face on my face to look like them, I would. If I could take the cells that you put out of my body, I would. Because I don't really want your face, but if I took you out of me, I would lose the good that is within you. But see, I'm half Paula Elizabeth Hameen, and I'm half Basim Ali Hameen. You put those two together, you got Layla. Thank you very much for the card. That is beautiful. I cannot wait to hold the keys up and show Mom. I'll say, Mom, guess what? I found the card. It only took 16 years, but I found it. We found it, and we're driving. I'm driving all the time. The only problem is there's still this 7-year-old little girl who's still just kind of walking around the parking lot looking for a car that doesn't even exist. It's not even there. Do you have a map for her? Thank you. I just feel like I lost like 5 boxes of stress off my body. That felt great. So yeah, that is a parking lot. That's a true monologue that I wrote. My father did provide me with a car when I was 23, and it got totaled, and I ended up using the insurance money to get the old car that had the rickety hood latch. And I thought, man, I wish I had that new car, but I don't know why I got that new car, because that was the car that we were looking for that day, symbolically. And that's my mommy right there. If you ever look at the thing, that's my mom watching me actually perform that, oddly enough, because I have the sash on. So she's watching me perform that. And it's not easy for my family, but they're getting used to it, and it's great to do. So it's very freeing, and it inspires me to help other people talk about things they need to talk about. So that's all I have for you all this evening. Thank you so much for your kindness and attention, and I love you all. Thank you.